Emma Reckenberg. Thanks for joining us this Monday. We begin our coverage in Washington, where President Biden is expected to arrive back at the White House any moment now, returning to face another major crisis, this one in the Middle East.
And the president facing growing criticism over his handling of the situation and the question of whether he's doing enough to end the violence.
For more on where the White House stands on the escalating tensions in the region, let's bring in Newsmax White House correspondent Emerald Robinson, live for us in D.C. Emerald, good morning.
Good morning, Emma. Well, as the president arrives back at the White House today, he and his administration will have to scramble to try to message to appease congressional Democrats who are upset about some breaking news this morning, saying that the Biden administration approved a $735 million sale to Israel for precision-guided weapons. Already, several congressional Democrats, as you know, Democrats remain split on the Israeli issue, but several have already spoken out against this. Now, once Congress was notified of the sale was approved actually the week before this conflict started, before Palestinians started launching rockets into Israel. Now, once Congress is formally approved, there's a 20-day window in which Congress can put forth a non-binding resolution that the president will then have to decide if he'll veto or uphold the sale. So we'll be watching to see how President Biden responds to these congressional Democrats who are against this sale. Now, the White House has also been responding to other criticisms in the wake of the violence for providing more than $100 million in humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. That's something that the Trump administration has stopped.
On April 7th, the State Department announced that it unlocked $75 million in economic assistance to the West Bank and Gaza. Is that being reviewed in light of the rocket attacks coming from Gaza to Israel?
No, that was humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people. Again, Hamas is a terrorist organization. The Palestinian people are also suffering as a result of the actions of this terrorist organization and the steps that the rockets that they have launched into Israel. So, no, the humanitarian assistance will, of course, continue.
But of course, critics of this aid suggest that Palestinians don't actually use it for the humanitarian prospects of this, but instead use it for violence against Israel. And also, speaking of one of the Biden administration's top critics on their policy in the Middle East, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo took to Twitter just in the last hour to criticize what is going on under the Biden administration in the Middle East. Pompeo saying, quote, the Biden administration has distanced itself from Israel by attempting to revive the failed Iran deal, siding with the Ayatollahs over our ally. America must be strong and defend its allies without hesitation. Now, this has been a messaging problem for the Biden White House over the last week. It's clearly something that they're going to face in a big way this week as the conflict heads into its second week. Also, Emma and Sean, there's a lot of concern over from foreign policy wonks here, particularly those who are a part of the Trump administration and Republicans on the Hill, as to what the Biden policy and what we're seeing right now will mean for those Abraham Accords that saw Arab-Israeli peace agreements. Emma, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely, Emerald. Many questions remain in regards to that. That's our White House correspondent, live for us in D.C. Emerald, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, for more on this story, we begin now with Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School and Newsmax analyst and author of this book, The Case Against the New Censorship, Protecting Free Speech from Big Tech Progressives and Universities. Alan, good to see you. Thanks for joining us there. As you heard from Emerald's reporting, just breaking, reports are coming in that President Biden has approved the sale of $735 million in weapons to Israel, raising some red flags for House Democrats. There's obviously a big call to end the violence. Your thoughts on that and where America is getting involved in this as far as the messaging goes and the support from this administration. Essentially, there's so much of picking sides in this, if you will. What do you make of it all?
Well, America should pick sides. This is a very simple issue between evil and good. Hamas is a terrorist organization that is firing rockets at civilians, at schools, at buses, at hospitals, and they're firing them from behind their own civilians, committing a double war crime. It's an old tactic. They've used it over and over again. They find an excuse. They fire rockets at Israel civilians. Israel does what any democracy would do, what America would do. they defend themselves, and then they can count on Bernie Sanders and AOC and the Squad and academics and the hard left always to condemn Israel. And so Israel wins the war on the ground, the military war, and Hamas wins the propaganda war. And people like Bernie Sanders and AOC simply encourage Hamas to do it again. They did it 4 years ago. They did it about 10 years ago. They're going to do it 4 or 5 years from now because they always win the propaganda war because they can count on naive, anti-American, often anti-Semitic responses against Israel for doing exactly what the United States would do under similar circumstances.
We've got the division there. You mentioned AOC. There's a tweet that AOC sent out. And she's getting involved again in Middle East peace and deals, or the geopolitical issues, if you will. And she says this, quote, apartheid states are not democracies, end quote. Again, AOC saying this, coming out against essentially Israel. Your thoughts on that?
That's pure anti-Semitism to call Israel an apartheid state in the Middle East, where you have Saudi Arabia, which separates people based on religion, Jordan, which doesn't allow Jews to buy property, Iran, that murders gays and Christians. Israel is the only non-apartheid state in the Middle East in which Arabs and Israelis have exactly the same rights. Arabs who live in Israel have more rights than Arabs who live in any Muslim country. AOC is a pure, bigoted anti-Semite. There's nothing Israel could do that is ever right for her, and there's nothing that Israel's enemies that can do that are ever wrong for her. It's amazing to me that she gets reelected in a city like New York, a city that should oppose bigotry. She is the poster child for anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel bigotry. She, along with others on the Squad, are one-sided in their condemnation of Israel, no matter what Israel does. And she is complicit with Hamas in killing Israeli civilians. She encourages Hamas to send rockets into Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and she should be universally condemned for it.
Final question for you, too, on this. Growing concerns that this new violence will undo the progress under the Abraham Accords. Here's some of the media already spinning it, if you will. Take a look at this.
This was something that was seen as a huge, at least among Republicans anyway, a huge feather in the cap of Donald Trump when it came to international diplomacy and Middle East issues. The president said that this was the foundation for comprehensive peace potentially in the entire region. You know, it wasn't just the Republicans, though. The Biden administration supported this. Tony Blinken came out and said that this was something he would like to see expanded and have other Arab nations in the regions join. I think a lot of experts are seeing what's happening now, given all the violence, and think the likelihood of more countries joining on to these accords is slim to none.
And a lot of us remember those heads of states there coming to the White House lawn there with President Trump, the Abraham Accords coming together in this moment in hopes that the peace would be reached, as we brought it to you here on National Report months and months ago when it happened. But are you concerned about this new round of fighting we're seeing now could be a starting point to ending or undoing these accords?
I don't. I think that the Arab nations that signed on for Israel are smart enough to know that Hamas is not only the enemy of Israel, but the enemy of stable regimes in the Middle East. And they're smart enough to know that Hamas did this purposely to try to undo the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords weren't signed as a favor to Israel. They were signed because alliances with Israel against Iran are very important for these countries. Their own self-interest supports it. And these alliances will continue. I suspect that Saudi Arabia, before long, will sign on. Other Arab Sunni nations will sign on. Hamas will continue to attack Israel, and if it were to benefit from that, it will only increase their incentive to continue to attack not only Israel, but remember that the enemy of Hamas is also stability, stable Arab regimes in the area. So I don't think any thoughtful Arab country would back out of the Abraham Accords because of the provocations that Hamas is directly aiming at the Abraham Accords and at Israel. So I think the Abraham Accords will continue and persist. Hamas, in the end, will lose, but with people like Sanders and AOC, they will win the propaganda war, and they will be encouraged to do it again and again and again and again.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Professor Alan Dershowitz joining us live here. Alan, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.